The Barnstable School Committee is moving forward with plans to search for a new superintendent. Site plan review hears about a proposed condo complex on Hyannis Harbor, and a clamming class for adults takes place this Saturday in Osterville. It's Friday, August 7th, 2015. I'm Sarah Colvin. The search for a new Barnstable superintendent of schools is moving forward. The search committee is expected to begin work on September 7th and close the search on October 9th. School Committee Chair Margot Weber outlined the search timeline at this week's school committee meeting.
Bill and I met on the 27th with Paul Hilton from the Center for Executive Search at Cape Cod Collaborative and Glenn Kuchar from MASC to just basically have a preliminary discussion of what we need to do now to move forward with this. And we are going to invite Paul and Glenn, or just Paul, to give a more thorough overview of the process at the next school committee meeting. But what we accomplished in that meeting is we have a tentative timeline in place now, with the search opening on September 7th, closing on October 9th. Focus forums with various groups, including parents, community administrators, teachers, and I've also requested that we have a focus group with Barnstable High School students that would be put together by the Student Council and the Youth Commission working together, given our discussions.
Student involvement will play a key role in the search. Weber further detailed the work of the committee.
The search committee, once it is assembled, will have an orientation sometime in September, the screening of applications in mid-October, looking at search committee interviews early November, with a recommendation to the school committee by mid-November, school committee interviews and site visits in December, and hopefully an announcement by the beginning of 2016.
Those wishing to participate on the search committee are asked to contact
right
Weber.
Now a last call for all interested parties to be in touch. Mr. Butler did send out an email to, I'd not heard from any high school teachers, so we'll see what we get from that, but it will be made up of teachers, administrators.
The school committee Wednesday took a vote on the advertised salary range for the incoming superintendent.
That the salary range be $175,000 to $200,000. To put things in perspective, during the search that resulted in the hiring of Dr. Chakowski, we advertised a range of $160,000 to $190,000. So it seems to me to be not that unrealistic.
Interim Superintendent of Schools Bill Butler mentioned consultants feel this is a favorable time to find a qualified candidate.
There were an unusually large number of high-profile districts that were attractive to superintendents. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. I don't think Glenn or Paul see that to the same extent this year, so I think we do have a leg up, and they certainly thought that the salary range they were recommending would be competitive and would attract a good applicant pool.
While the committee does want to announce a hire by mid-January, the new superintendent will likely not begin work in Barnstable until the beginning of fiscal 2016.
We're going through the process. You know, we may announce a hire early January. That doesn't mean that person is going to take over till July 1st or you know, I mean, most likely there's a sitting superintendent. Okay, we've hired you. We've made a commitment. They'll start to slowly, you know, maybe do some days here and there, but they would not become the superintendent.
I think that's absolutely correct. Superintendents typically have notice provisions in their contracts. They have to give so many days or months notice to their current school committees. It ranges from typically 90 days to 6 months, sometimes longer. Plus, you know, I mean, superintendents typically aren't going to move, you know, to another district in February or March. They're going to wait until the end of June.
We will keep you up to date on the progress of the school superintendent search committee. Meanwhile, developer Stuart Bornstein is one step closer to creating a new housing development on Hyannis Harbor. This week, Dan Ojala with Down Cape Engineering presented before site plan review.
We hope it's a very positive project for the downtown of Hyannis. We're proposing a redevelopment of the Dockside Inn, which is a storied restaurant. Some of you may recall it was prior down on the waterfront. It was moved up to the top to make way for the ferry terminal back in '96, I believe. and it's operated up at the top of the hill since then. There's a former hotel site across the street, which is I'll show you the existing conditions plan. Former hotel site across the street, which is now vacant, sort of a parking area relatively for the Dockside Inn. It's privately owned. We've labeled them here as the north parcel and the west parcel. It was recently divided, and the southern parcel of these was sold to Dockside Marina LLC, Hyannis Marina and Wayne Kirker's organization, and they have since had permitted some changes down there to the docks and so forth, and through Conservation Commission at least, a bathroom facility in the side of the bank down adjacent to the parking lot. So this is well up above there. We have a view easement across there about elevation 29, so nothing can be built higher. And what we're proposing is a full redevelopment of this site. We're taking down the restaurant, scraping it right down to grade. We're in front of Historic to demolish a small shed-like structure in the northeast corner. That's a somewhat historic structure, but it was determined not to really have any value a number of years ago, and I believe we've already got the vote on that to demolish that again. Certainly, if anybody wants it, put your hand up, and we'd be glad to donate it. But that's slated for removal in the near future. So that's the existing conditions. There is a wetland resource, which is a coastal bank southeast of the property, but it's, again, a very man-made feature. There's a break in the bank about 8 foot wide, which stops the coastal bank at the flags that are shown there. And again, there has been a structure approved in the bank by the abutting property, so it's well worked over. Nonetheless, we will file with conservation with respect to the that one feature. Unlike many sites where high and dry, there's no flood zone issues. The new flood zone is way down at 12, and our site is up at about 25. So we get dry feet on this one, no issues with the flood zone, only with the respect that it creates the coastal bank somewhat south of us.
Barnstable Building Commissioner Tom Perry says more time is needed before making a final decision on
Like I say,
approval.
we'll do a pre-construction meeting once you're all done and get the details of how this is going to look worked out. We will leave this open. I think we can find this pretty much approvable. But because where you need to go, there's so many other people that are going to weigh in on this. We'll leave this open, come back for a final set when everything is worked out. And
The plan calls for 33 luxury units, 3 of which would be designated as workforce housing. Well, if you've ever wanted to try shell fishing but haven't yet headed out to the flats with a rake and basket, your chance to learn how is coming up this weekend. Natural Resource Supervisor Doug Calway tells us an adult clamming class will begin at 12:30 at the Bridge Street Landing in Osterville this Saturday.
No, we have 3 kids learn to shellfish for kids classes every year. And a lot of times when people bring their children, they ask more questions than the children do, so we figured that it would be probably a good idea to have an adult class. And we didn't know how many we would get, but we got at least 50 or 60 people in that morning. It's very, very popular. And then when they put quite a few quahogs in the area so they can have a decent chance of finding some. And they give out recipes and ways to open them, and it's a really enjoyable time. And we have another one coming up this Saturday, 12:30 at Bridge Street in Osterville also. And my guess is it'll be as interesting. Many people come in our office and they ask questions about shellfish and how to do it, and they enjoy it. They like to be outside, but they just don't have the knowledge to do it. So
Calway says registration is encouraged but not required, and supplies will be provided.
We like people to sign up, but that's almost impossible sometimes. But we have rakes, we have containers, and the people who are volunteering to teach people have a little tag identification on it that says if they want to ask someone a question, they can ask the person with the tag. And most of the volunteers, including our staff, they volunteer their limit from their license to people who might not have a license. You do not need a license.
The class begins at 12:30 Saturday, August 8th at the Bridge Street Landing in Osterville. For more information, you can call the Natural Resources Division at 508-790-6270. Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long weekday news program, Barnstable This Morning, connecting you with the news you need from Town Hall each and every weekday morning. On Monday, we'll welcome Town Manager Tom Lynch, Interim Superintendent of Schools Bill Butler, Energy Coordinator Richard Elrick, and Cape Cod Community College Communications Director Michael Gross. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.